Hi guys, welcome to another video from Overbite Gaming, and today we're going to be talking about the Callisto protocol. So yeah, this game, I mean, when it came out I watched a couple of Let's Plays, or at least the start of them, and you know, it was definitely really suffering performance wise, a lot of stutter, huge frame drops, really low frame rate areas, and in all, my experience with it, although bear in mind I got a hold of it Christmas Day, has been nothing like that, in all honesty. I mean, I really didn't notice anything until the point where you end up getting in a space and going outside. I didn't have any frame drops or stutter up to that point, and then I occasionally got stutter, but it was like 3 or 4 times between then and the end of the game, and it was never in a position where it was like in combat. It was always just when I swung around a corner and it had to load in new textures. And honestly, there were very few instances where my frame rate dropped below 60. It was up to 144 sometimes, other times it was just barely squeaking 60. After I went outside, it settled in at about 45 for about a minute, and then recovered, and it was pretty much above 60 for the rest of the game. I found why the frame rate was all over the place. I mean, varying between 144 and 60, even though it's above 60, is still a lot of variance. It didn't stutter, so it really didn't affect my enjoyment of the game, and I did enjoy the game. Before I move on to the game itself, I did take some benchmarks. So I took it at everything at the lowest it would go, everything highest it would go except for ray tracing, and then the highest everything will go with ray tracing. So I'm going to put those benchmarks on screen for you now, just so you can see the difference between the 3 different settings that I used. To give you some idea, I'm running a 10700K and a 3080 10 gig with 16 gig of DDR4 3000 RAM. So there's your comparison between the 3 using that hardware. So that's going to be the most editing intense part of the video, so let's go and do that now. Okay, so as you can see, the setting that made the most impact was obviously the ray tracing, which, like, in almost all circumstances, it cuts it in half. I mean, the game does have FSR 2.0, so you can use that to increase your frame rate by having a lower native resolution and upscaling. I haven't really tried it because without it on and ray tracing off, the frame rate was fine for me. Above 60 I'm happy enough with. I mean, ideally I'd love to have it run at my panel's maximum, which is 144, but you know, 60 is fine. I'm happy with 60. I can't complain. And you know, hell, if you're really a gamer that doesn't mind 30, you can always have ray tracing on. Who cares? If you're happy with it, be happy with it. But for the most part, I didn't have too many technical difficulties. I did see there were more than just performance runs. I saw a Let's Play from Hill vs Babyface where a lift didn't take him where it should have taken him on his first playthrough, which is kind of weird. Didn't happen to me at all. Had no real technical issues with it. I do have some issues with it, not technical ones though. So yeah, I mean, for all of the furor around its release, I think I did the right thing by holding off just a little bit, a few weeks, and they seem to have patched it. I am playing on the Epic Store, so I can't tell you how long I've played it for. I have completed it. I did get it on the Epic Store because I had a coupon that was 25% off, so I saved some money. Shoot me. So the game itself, it's set in 2320, and you play Jacob Lee. Excellent name. Well, half an excellent name. The other one's a bit backwoodsy, but whatever. If it's any Jacobs out there, I'm sure you're all lovely people. Don't diddle your sister. I'm just digging now. I'm going to stop. And you're a cargo pilot, and you're shuttling medical supplies. You get boarded by a terrorist. You couldn't see the quote marks. I did because they're my fingers and you can't see them. But I did do quote marks around the terrorists. And you crash on a prison planet, and much to your shock and horror, you are subsequently apprehended and thrown in the prison as well for having crashed and having your co-pilot die in a relatively grisly manner. And then you wake up in your cell and shit has hit the fan, and there's all these blobby creatures running about called necrophages. I think they're called necrophages. Are they biophages? There's phages in there. Biophages, yes, that was the one. Necromorph is Dead Space. It's very reasonable to get mixed up between Dead Space and the Callisto Protocol. Primarily because I believe there were developers that worked on both. And it does have a lot of Dead Space DNA in it, although it's not exactly the same by a long shot. For instance, you stamp on enemies once you've killed them to get like goodies pop out, like you would in a Dead Space game. And in fact, there's a dedicated stamp button. You do it so much. The other things in the game are, I don't want to spoil it too much. I enjoyed the story. I know there's been detractors from it, so I don't want to ruin it for everybody in case you're easily pleased like me, I suppose. It does have the voice talents of Josh Duhamel, the guy from Transformers, Karen Fukuhara, who was in the original Suicide Squad and probably more popular than The Boys, and Sam Witwer, who is in pretty much everything and needs to be in more things in my opinion. Sam Witwer was great in every role I've seen him in, except for maybe Davis Bloom. You Smallville guys know what I'm talking about, where he's just a whiner like all of the time. Dude, shut up whining, you're so boring. But he was Star Killer and everything like that, so, and he was in The Mist. He did whine in that, but then again he was being fed to The Mist, so can't really blame him on that one. So it has a good amount of stars. They mocapped as well as did the voice performances, which is good. Some of the... I know it gets a lot of the facial expressions right, but the mouth is still a little bit... I know they mocapped it, but just ever since like they did LA Noire, I want to say? Yeah, I think it's LA Noire. When they did the sort of filmed mouths that they used. Nothing else compares to that. They just can't get it. I don't know what it is. Karen Fukuhara's face, or her character's face, I should say. I mean, she's a perfectly pleasant-looking lady in real life, so no aspersions there. But her character just seems to have a slightly less expressive face than everybody else. No idea why. I mean, she's perfectly capable of expressing in real life. Whether it's the nature of the role, maybe it might have been a choice because she has got a particularly harrowing backstory, so you would think that maybe she's just emotionally sort of zonked out of it. That could be why. It does sort of... It is noticeable. The gameplay itself is... I thought it was a lot of fun. I mean, I can see people complain that it gets old because you are doing the same thing over and over, but what you're doing to me is satisfying enough that I didn't mind doing it over and over. So you start off with a pipe, which you obviously hit things with, and then you get a stun baton, which doesn't really do much stunning in fairness. You just use it to sort of batter people, but, you know, whatever. It goes zap, so yeah, that's better, I suppose, than a pipe. And various different weapons. The weapons are quite interesting because you kind of get like a long trigger unit and a shorter trigger assembly. And you sort of plug those into a 3D printer and it prints the gun out on top of it, and then you can just slide out the trigger and sort of like when you swap weapons put another one on it. I thought it was quite good. You do get upgraded for the various weapon kits. So you find a schematic, take it through the printer, print it onto that, and then you can add like mods to it via the same printing service that will use the in-game currency Callisto credits. And on the guns, it's great because like it gives it like a flash hider or a noticeable magazine or a stock, or you know, just more gunny stuff that makes it change. You can upgrade your baton, but it does absolutely nothing in terms of looks, which I was a little bit disappointed by, to be fair, especially as you're going to be using the baton most of the time. The combat skews very, very heavily towards melee combat. The guns themselves are useful. You can use them actually as part of sort of like a combo inside the melee combat, or you can just shoot things. They're handy for like shooting an explosive barrel. People are coming past, shooting exploding. They have exploding enemies. Again, I hate exploding enemies. Really hate them. They are putrid, and the person that thought of them when it comes to game design needs to, well, I won't go so far as to die a horrible death, but suffer a lot of discomfort. How about that? We'll go that way with it. I don't like them in Dead Space. I don't like them here. I don't like them in any game. I hate like creatures that just run up to you and explode. I mean, like, why would nature create a creature like that? Why would like anybody create a creature like that? Ugh. Anyway, no, that's enough of that. There aren't too many versions of bad guys. You have sort of ones that you don't really interact with too much. You have like these heads that come out on like a big long tentacle and bite you and try and drag you into the sort of toothy pod that they came out of. And you just need a hammer, you know, the Y button or your console equivalent, until you break 3 of it. Once that's done, it's dead. You can go stomp it and it might pop something out for you to pick up. And then you have these little wormy dudes. And these little wormy dudes are a pain in the arse. The game does a relatively good job at target them with like stomps and baton hits, so it's not too bad in that sense. You can take them, but normally the first indication that they're there is when one jumps on you. And to make things even worse, they start hiding in chests towards the late game. I think only in 2 or 3, but it was annoying because you sort of train yourself, oh, a chest, there's stuff in there, I'll get that, and then blah, worm on your head. So they're kind of cheap. Kind of both of those do a little bit of damage, not too much, but a little bit. And you know, just getting yourself chipped down with something that you can't possibly avoid in most cases is a bit annoying. Outside of that, you have just your regular mutated bad guys. You have these heavier built guys, you know, big lardy ones, hit a bit harder. You have this one that's like got a sort of, he looks like my Staffy with like a heart-shaped head, but it's really like 2 heads that are in the sort of process of becoming separated. They can spit shit at you, which is annoying. It's hard. I'm not even sure if you can dodge that. You can block, and blocking it seems to be the way to go. And when you get close, they will then just switch to melee attacks, and you can fight them as you normally would. There's also, I don't know whether or not to call them. They're a bit confusing because, like, okay, you have these blind enemies essentially. They're like exactly the same as like the regular dudes, but they're blind. And the explanation is they've evolved in like the 80 years and been without light, and yet you go down where they evolved and there's lights bloody everywhere. And you just kind of like don't really see why you needed to evolve to be blind, but okay then. Normally they're pretty easy. You can just, as long as you don't make a noise, so you just crouch walk around them and stab them in the back of their heads, which is relatively satisfying. Possibly not as satisfying as like fighting a room full of them. So there's also mini bosses. There's like 3. They look exactly the same. They're 2-headed monsters that are bigger and can wreck your shit in pretty much one hit. And you take them out the exact same way each time. Once you know how to do it, and I won't tell you here, but you know, you can just Google it and find out if you really need to know. they pose little to no threat as long as you're equipped to handle them in terms of inventory. So let's delve further into the combat while we're here, because I've been talking about fighting things but not really described the method of doing so. So the melee combat it's not as shallow as some people would say, but it's also reasonably shallow. It's not like Tekken where you have to do 1500 button presses for your combo, and there's sort of circles and swirls and swoops and dips and dives and dodges. So when you go into combat, right trigger, although your console may vary, right trigger will do a standard attack, and once you've upgraded the baton you can do a heavy attack with right one or the right bumper. See, I'm mixing, I'm sorry. So that's your melee attacks. Pretty simple, you know, not too much to worry about there. The way you evade is when an enemy takes a pop at you, you hold the left stick left or right and you'll dodge it. You don't need to time it, you just need to hold the stick and you'll dodge. If he goes to hit you again, you need to move the stick to the other side. So if you went right the first time, you need to go left now and you'll dodge. As I said, no need to time it, as long as you're holding that direction you'll dodge it. And if you move the stick back, you'll block. You will initially take a little bit of damage for blocking, but you can upgrade the block to take no damage and also be able to counter off of the block as well, which is fairly useful. The challenge is learning the enemy movements, so you're not trying to initiate attack while they're attacking you. A lot of the time I found I was hitting them and they were hitting me at the same time. So yeah, there is a challenge to it, even though the blocking from outside seems stupidly easy. I mean, you'll be like, okay, he's going to be wild, he's going to hit me twice, and I'm going to hit him, and he's going to pull out a third hit, and like, you'll be like, shit. Okay. I died a couple of times during my playthrough, nothing major. I certainly wasn't playing it on hard. You can guess for yourself what I was playing it on if you'd like. If you follow the channel long enough, you don't need to ask the question. So yeah, that's basically the melee combat, with the exception of the gun interaction. So what will happen is you'll hit him a few times and then he'll stagger back, and then a little reticle will pop up and you need to hold down left trigger and then press right trigger, and you'll take a quick shot at him with your gun before you resume the melee sort of stuff. So that's all good. It does make it more interesting, but to be fair, most of the enemies that you fight in melee, I don't really have a problem with fighting in melee. I'm fine with that. There are certain bad guys, like the exploding ones, and some of the tougher enemies later, where it's advisable to use more firearms. So I'd rather keep the ammo for the firearms for that, and just beat the stuffing out of it with my baton. You know. And one of the complaints I did here is the combat system isn't really suited for multiple enemies, and where I can agree with that. It's not, because it does strictly focus you on one. Generally speaking, it does a pretty good job in only having you need to concentrate on that one at a time. So if you're facing a group of them and you've just like battered one and done your combo, and he's like backing off, you only need to concentrate on like if another one's getting to attack you. So if you see someone like pulling their arm back for a swing, you dodge, and then you're focused on him and you'll fight him until you finish your combo, and then you're in a position where another one might attack you. So it sort of does it in the sort of Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan sort of martial arts movie type fighting. You may be a lot of enemies, but generally you only need to deal with one at a time. There have been a few instances where one's been behind me and I've battered him back, and I've been like, where's this next one coming from? And then some bastards at me from behind. Can't do much about that. You can reposition yourself in combat if you need to, but generally speaking, he will turn and face the threat at that point, and it doesn't happen a lot. They do a relatively good job in making sure you don't get overwhelmed with hits coming in from everywhere, because it's like I say, only one enemy is actually attacking at any one time. so you have the opportunity to deal with the attacker and not have to worry about the others, which I think is the best way it could have been done. The combat itself is crunchy, for lack of a better term. You inflict some pretty brutal injuries, and when you die you do get very thoroughly killed in many different ways. It's probably the highlight of the game, seeing how badly screwed up you get. There's ones where basically you get knocked to the floor and your head literally gets so shattered he pops it like a zip because your skull is so compromised it's just meat in there. It's like and like, you know, you get half your head torn off and all sorts. Very many terrible ways to die, and very many terrible ways to kill things. You will notice that, you know, there's not an infinite amount of animation. The amount of like bad guys that you fight, and you like do the kick and then tap them on top of the head for the finisher, or you'll knock him against the wall, take out a knee and then bat him in the head for a finisher. You'll see those multiple times, but they are crunchy and fun enough that I didn't find them getting on by the end of a playthrough. I am planning to go through and play it again. I have played the first section a second time just to capture footage for this review. I would have liked to have seen a New Game Plus. I hear that's coming, but it's not there yet. Purely because you can't upgrade everything on your first run through. It's very much like, okay, you've got to decide what's more important to you and just concentrate on that. For me, I took pretty much the approach of beefing up the baton. I think I had everything but one upgrade for that by the end of my playthrough, and I think that was just one of the blocking ones, and as I hardly ever blocked, it didn't really strike me as a main concern. I did find out that one of the enemies that you really need to use like guns on, I probably needed to like put a bit more in guns. I did get past him, but my life would have been a whole bunch easier if I'd put more in guns. So, but then again, you know, the rest of the game would have been harder by not putting it in my baton, so whatever. Probably my main complaint about the game is the telekinesis system, which, much like in Dead Space, yes, you have a kinesis module that you pick up. It's a glove this time around. You can it can also be upgraded for like additional power. First of all, the power indicator, I think it's just above your health, although I'm not terribly sure. I'm never really sure whether it's got charge or not. I tended to use it incredibly infrequently, purely because it's very twitchy about working. Sometimes it'll just pick guys up and drop them straight away again, or it'll pick them up and then you'll go to throw them, but they'll just get knocked out of your hand. Well, your grip, not your hand, because you're not actually touching them. Or you'll throw them and they'll just hit something before you wanted them, what you wanted them to hit, that you didn't notice, where it just clipped them slightly and it just stopped them in their tracks. And you're just like, So I didn't really use it very much. I mean, I can see the appeal of it. There's a lot of sections with deliberately spiky walls. You can, you know, melee them into the wall if you're lucky, or off of ledges, but, you know, it would be much easier in theory to use the glove to just throw them off the ledge or into the walls or into the grindy bit of machinery that's grinding for no other reason than to throw things into. But it just works so infrequently from it, I just stopped using it. I said, you know, I upgraded it a few times because I thought, I'll probably get a boss battle where I have to pick shit up and throw it at them. And yeah, there was one like that, so good on me. But overall, I really enjoyed it. I liked the story. I thought the voice performances were all good. I like the combat, which is good because it's the main part of the game. There are certain sections where you're kind of like, oh, come on. So he does like to shimmy a lot. There's a lot of like narrow things that he has to shimmy through quite slowly. There's a lot of vents that you crawl through. Nothing happens in the vents ever. But you have to watch him, you know, do his crawl. He does corner events a bit differently. He sort of goes up on his hip and sort of like pulls himself around off the corner, which is a bit different from what you normally get in vent crawling in video games. So that was appreciated, but there's still far too much of it, and nothing happens in it. Same for the shimmying. There's one part, I think, where you have to shimmy past a body that's like been sort of mucus to the wall, and you're like, oh, poor guy, and you sort of go on, and his eye opens as you've gone past him, and it's signposted a mile off, and it's not scary. It doesn't make you jump. You just like, he's going to open his eye. Oh, there, he's opened his eye. But like that was the most notable thing that happened in any vent or shimmying section that I can remember. I think one of the major problems of the game is it's not scary in the slightest. None of the jump scares got me. I wasn't filled with dread upon booting up going, oh man, I really don't want to play this, like a certain game that I'm currently doing a Let's Play of, let's just say that. So, I mean, I think the guy that did it, he was like on record saying he wants to make the scariest game ever, and it's just not scary. It's not scary because you are so able to deal with these threats. I think that's what takes a lot of it out. It's super violent, you can fuck them up super bad, and you can take on multiple ones, and you're just like, well, why are they scary then? I can just beat them up with my baton. It's not scary. Even when they jump out the wall, it's like could be one of like 3 different bad guys. Oh, look, it's him. Scary. I've killed like dozens of him already. No, I don't think. I didn't find it scary. It was atmospheric, and I did like. Did a lot of work on the environment and the locales and the lighting to make it feel like it should be scary. But I just didn't find it scary, which is unfortunate. Well, not really, I suppose. I mean, it's unfortunate for them that it didn't scare me, but it's fortunate for me that it didn't. Because, like, that meant I didn't really want to stop playing it, because I didn't want to, like, get scared again. Or jumped. You know, startled might be a better description. But it is, I would say it's a good game. Would I get it if I was playing it on a lower spec PC? I don't know, probably yes, because I'm stupid. And I mean, if you look at the benchmark, I don't think that, off the top of my head, because I haven't like seen the benchmarks for a couple of days, so I'm not. I think the difference between like lowest and ultra settings on mine was like a few frames. I don't think it was significant at all. As I said, it was a ray trace that really tanks the frame rate, and you know, it's nice to have it on when it's not costing you sub 60 performance. But if it does that, it's kind of like, yeah, you know, it does add something, but is it enough that I want to suffer the performance loss? And no, is my answer really on that. I mean, obviously, like using FSR or DLSS. I can't remember if this game has it now. I don't think it does. I think it's just FSR and temporal aliasing is its means of upscaling. So, yeah. Don't know, maybe we would have seen better results with DLSS, but I don't know. To be honest, I don't like upscaling anyway. I understand the reason for it. I mean, it was basically brought in so, you know, ray tracing was possible at all. I mean, I had a 2080 Super. You know, ray tracing on that was pretty rough until you turned DLSS on, and even then it wasn't great. So it was kind of like a thing NVIDIA had to do in order to get people to actually try ray tracing at all, in my opinion. But yes, I've gone off on a bit of a tangent there. Callisto Pro, I really liked it. It was a good game. The inventory starts out a little bit small, I must say. But when you get the spacesuit, you get more inventory slots, and that sort of lessens that problem, although you still fill up your inventory quite a lot. And you generally keep a couple of med packs, a couple of stacks of bullets for your favourite guns, and then you just leave the rest so you can sell whatever you pick up to try and get more upgrades, which is the way Dead Space worked as well. So again, kind of like Dead Space. But yeah, I enjoyed it. don't know if I could recommend it in terms of... I've seen a lot of people have bad performance and I was happy with mine. Whether or not you are going to be in Camp 1 or Camp 2, I'm not sure. I would hope that it's patches to the game that has improved the performance, and you know, it's not just I won the Silicon lottery sort of thing. Either's possible. I mean, you'll always get the one PC that can't run anything for absolutely no reason at all, but it does happen. So, I mean, apparently the PlayStation 5 is the platform to play it on, but at least in this country, it's 50 quid on the PC, it's 70 quid on the PlayStation. And technically the PC should be better. So, oh no, it just irks me to think that having to pay the £20 Sony tax is like, to get a working game is like a thing that happens at all. But no, I didn't have any of the problems with it, so I guess you paid your money and made your choice. I did enjoy it for what that is worth. If you think you will, you probably will, from what I described, and you probably will enjoy it. Question of it performing well on your rig is another one. Console's apparently fine, but as I said, they're £20 more expensive, or at least the PlayStation 5 one is. I'm not sure about the Xbox Series X. It's like, I really don't have any reason to investigate Xbox, seeing as their games are on PC now anyway. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Consumer good, Microsoft bad. Seems a weird one to me, but there you go. So, there you go. I liked it. I mean, I'm not going to score it out of 10, but, you know, I'll be quite happy to play that over again. I possibly might wait until it's patched with New Game Plus to do so, just so I sort of haven't lost all of what I've done, if that makes sense. I mean, I don't want to like, hey, New Game Plus is here, but I need to play the game first and then get the New Game Plus and do that again. Not sure about that. So New Game Plus, where you keep all your upgrades and shit like that, that'd be very cool. I'd be very interested in playing that. Anyway, guys, I have no idea how long I've been going for. Probably far too long. It does feel like I've been talking for quite a while. What is the old... Oh yes, that's 10 minutes longer than normal, so I guess I'll end it there. Let me know down below, have you picked up the Callisto project? What problems have you had? Did you get it on console? And feeling unreasonably smug about it. Anyway guys, that's all from me this week. You take it easy, and I'll catch you next time. Oh, and have a great new year, because I believe that's tomorrow as you hear this. So, yes. Yes, apparently vegetable oil coats the stomach. I saw it in a movie once. It's probably not true. Don't try it. Bye!